episode 4, part 2 of putting the gasket seals, exhaust seals back together for the outboard. I don't have the one that connects the top of the head unit to the outboard, but I have everything else. We're waiting on that one to come. So clearly I've done a lot since the last video, just because I didn't think it was important for you to see it all coming apart. But this is what's left of our outboard motor. So I hope I can get this thing back together. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to be putting it back together as we go, so you can see it how it goes all back together again, which is why I didn't think it was that important to take it apart. So first thing that we've done, we've taken, this is the lower gasket, this is upside down. We've cleaned everything up with using a wire brush, which I've got right here, and some scrapers and some heat guns, so that you can see that's nice and shiny and clean. And now we're going to start bolting it all back together. This is the gasket that goes on there. This is what was failing. Why I took this whole motor apart was to put this gasket on. So we're going to start putting this back together. And what we'll do is probably a time lapse of me trying to get everything going and where it was when it all started out again. Alright, so we got this gasket together and the lower unit together. Now we've got to line it back up with the outboard, or the bracket. So these went in like this. If I can get it in there, wiggle it in there. Came off just fine. Maybe I should, oh, that's because I did it this way. Sorry. This goes through here. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there. It goes like that. This comes off here. It goes like that. This goes in here. Like that. Then we have these. There's a bolt over here and a bolt here. So that's going to go like that. We're going to bolt that back together. What's going on is this is not, there it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten these all up loose, and then when I get it back in its final position, I'll snug everything up. Okay. Now when you put these gaskets on, just again, I'm not tightening those up tight. When you put these gaskets on, you shouldn't clamp anything down. You should do pretty even. So we're not gonna put the back two here on. I'm gonna just put those on snug, and I'm actually not gonna tighten this whole thing up finally until the head unit gets back on top of it. But what we can do is put the lower unit right back on the motor, because that should not be in our way. Okay, got that, we got that, we got the two in the back. You see, this needs to be tightened up, but once we get those other gaskets on, it'll be tightened up. But what can go on now is we can lift the motor up. Not going up in its high position, but this did not have a gasket on it. see if this lines up right there. Okay. Put that in place. It's fighting me a little bit here. I'm not changing out the water pump, which would be a good time to do that if you're doing this, because it was done last summer, so it's a relatively new water pump. There we go. Now we're up. All right, so if you wouldn't mind, if you can, I got this little block here that'll hold that up for me. All right. Now, if I get the right bolts here, which are, I believe, over here. I remember when I told you there was a hidden one underneath the cavitation trim tab. So you have two on this side, two on this side. Then you've got this one. This was the secret one. Ready? This goes all the way up in here, and it's not easy to get to. I'll just hand tighten that until I can get my wrench on there. Now all of these, with the person that did this before me, because my hands are full of grease, we're all covered in grease. So usually it's a good idea to put anti-seize or grease up on these. But this is all covered. You can see my hands are filthy because the last person that did this did a good job. So now we got something that's starting to look like a motor. Actually, I want to go a little less. All right, now like I said before, we don't want to cramp just one side down because this is aluminum and that can be brittle and it can crack. So we're not going to really ream down on these things until it's really even all the way around. And then sort of either go in a star pattern or go around in a circle so you kind of get them all tightened up at the same time. Now these do have torque settings on them. I don't have a torque wrench right now, so I'm just going to do it until I can't do it anymore and not force it anymore. That should be pretty good. Okay. I'll do this one on this side. Alright, I'll go back and tighten those one more down one more time, but let's get that cavitation plate back in. I think that's what they call it. I just got to find it. Here it is. So we've got this piece and this piece. And then I've got to get a this is a, I believe it's a 10 millimeter on an extension. So I can get up in there. I believe it's a 10 millimeter. It's not. It must be, let's try to 12. This was the one that was driving me crazy because I couldn't figure out how to take off the it's way up in there. There it goes. Okay, that's as tight as I want to go. Now this plate is adjustable. And what this does, you can see the last person dropped the outboard and broke that on me, so that bothers me a little bit. But if you had this on there straight and you were running the motor, the boat would naturally turn as if you were setting, as if you were in a car, aligning the wheels. All right, we got one last part for today. I cleaned this gasket off. That's ready to go. But what happens next is we put this sucker in there, if I can remember how to do it. Okay, let me clean that junk off there a little bit. This is the bottom cowling of the motor. This made it easier for me to take that whole thing apart. Oh, one little screwdriver there, get some junk in there. And then what we'll do is I'm going to mount this up, we'll bolt this on, and then that'll be it for today until that other gasket comes in, hopefully by the end of the week. And then we'll finish this up on next week's episode. But I'm feeling like we're making good headway here. All right. So what this is your shift arm. So I'll show you how that goes together on the bottom here. But that's the shift arm for you know, putting in forward and reverse. So this slides back down in there, and this line it up here. There it is. All right, so I will clean this up too off camera so it'll look nice and neat. But we'll put these 4 bolts back in, and then we can step back a little bit and we'll see that it's all ready to go. Now next week what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this gasket on, and then I've got a couple other O-rings that seal around this that I also ordered brand new, so the rubber on that will be brand new too. But I am happy that we got it all off, all back together. Obviously we still have to do the put the head unit back on, but we got it all off, all back together, and we didn't break anything, so that's a pretty good deal. So we'll see you next week. Does that for you. So we'll have to, it was in this absolute perfect straight position when we took it off, but I think that's probably wrong. I'm going to cant it a little bit, but this is something that you'll adjust once it's on the motor, until the motor will go straight without your hands on the steering wheel. All right, so we're in pretty good shape. Now, everything went back together again. Oh, I got 2 more things to go in. In order to take this section off to get that lower unit, it had this little bracket in there. I don't know what that does, but it does something. Let's see. You can see these before I tension those on. Goes like that. Oh, it goes like that. And it's all got rubber in there, and I believe that's to slow down the vibration when you're running it. Again, I want to make sure that I do it evenly. Oh, hit the camera. Hope I didn't mess it up. Because I don't want to put uneven pressure on any of these brackets, so make sure I snug them up in order of where the bracket stays straight the entire time. So I don't want to bend it or break it. Now, this one was tricky. This, if I push that up, uh-oh, can see, I need to move that here. There it goes. You see this goes way back there. And that's what holds that lined up. And I need to actually do that with a hand wrench. Hand tighten that one. Hand tighten this one. You can probably see why I didn't want to waste the video time of taking this all apart on the video, because now I'm just putting it all back together again so you can see exactly how I did it. Now, I'll tighten these up off camera. You don't need to see that. But what's left on here? So we just replaced this gasket, brand new right here. That will get tightened up when we put the head unit back on it. Then I'm cleaning this gasket off. Once that gets all cleaned off, I'm going to take the bottom cowling, which is this. I'm going to drop that back down into place. I want to clean that off. And then we'll actually be ready to go with that top bracket, and then we can put it all back together again and see if it works.